This week is Parshas VaYishlach, literally in descent, and it's the portion in which Yaakov sends a letter to his brother Esav. It's a letter where he's basically requesting his forgiveness over the incident concerning the brachas and the birthright. He wants to make peace with Esav, who was incensed with him when he left for Haran. He has just left Haran, and his last meeting with Lavan, his father-in-law, was tense, but it ends amicably. Before he actually meets with Esav, Yaakov has a fight with an angel, and he prevails against the angel, and the angel gives him a bracha, saying that you will now be called Yisrael. No longer will your primary name be called Yaakov. It says because you have, he uses the word sar, you have perceived God and man properly. Therefore, your reward is your name is going to be literally the perception of God. The word sar, as in Yisrael, has a number of definitions. Yashar, straight, honest. Also, it's the language of being a minister. And they all have relevance. The concept of a name, especially in the Chumash, is wider than we generally perceive it in our ordinary lives. You know, you ask someone their name, they say, well, the name that's on their birth certificate. In the case of the Chumash, it's also the equivalent of a job title, what it is that you're doing, what your position is. Also, it's an appellation, a description of the person, fast, dark. Okay, it's going back to the time when names actually had more of a meaning than they do in English. And it indicates a change in Yaakov's mission in this world. Up until now, he has been dealing with people who were basically Rishayim. Esav, his basic difficulty is in his heart, he scorned divine service. He has a conflict about it because there's a part of him that really respects it and loves it. And this conflict is going to be explosive, and in the end he will resolve it, basically saying to Yaakov, what's yours is yours. He acknowledges the brachas and the birthright in a subtle way. Part of the reason is because he doesn't want them, and he sees that Yaakov really does want them and is appropriate for it. In the case of Lavan, the essential difficulty with him is lust for money, greed. When Yaakov says, I'll serve you for 7 years for your daughter Rachel, the proper response for someone who's going to be your father-in-law, especially if he's your uncle, would be to say, look, Rachel's a fine girl, why don't you marry her right now? And, you'll be a part of the household, and in practice, he should take care of him as well. In the case of Lavan, he basically wants to take Yaakov for everything he has, and he has him work the 7 years, and after the 7 years, he basically gives him Leah, so he'll work for him another 7 years. And he considers Rachel and Leah, his daughters, basically as foreigners because they're attached to Yaakov. He is extremely single-minded and basically unscrupulous and in principle when it comes to money. In the end, when he is faced with this directly, essentially when he chases after Yaakov, and Yaakov confronts him with it and basically calls him a Russia over it and threatens him with war, effectively, then he changes. Okay, it might be just a momentary change, but he sees that basically these are his daughters, these are his grandchildren, and he looks at Yaakov favorably. And he makes peace with him. The language of Yaakov is also an expression of ikuv lev, literally someone who has an impediment in his heart, a twisted heart. And the dealings with Lavan and Esav are an expression of getting rid of these twists and impediments in the heart. The commentaries note that that Yaakov and Yisrael, Yisrael meaning perception of God, that they add up to 729, which is the gematria, the numerical equivalent of Kara Satan, literally tear up the Satan, tear up the adversary, tear up the devil. It's part of a prayer called Ana B'Koach, which is davening basically for the welfare and mercy for the Jewish people. It's notable because the letters that start each word form the 42-letter name of God. So what Yaakov and Yisrael will be dealing with is tearing up the Satan. The bracha is basically given to Yaakov twice. The second time it's given is after the rape and abduction of his daughter Dinah by Hamor, who's prince of the town of Shechem. And the whole family is very upset about that. And her brothers, Shimon and Levi, what they basically tell Shechem and his the father of Hamor and Hamor as well, that they will consent to legitimize this situation, that they'll let him marry her with their consent, agree to it, okay, if they will agree to become circumcised. And being that Hamor is very much in love with Dinah, they agree to it. And then, on the third day, while they are in pain, recovering from the circumcision, Levi and Shimon go into the town of Shechem and kill all the men and plunder the city and take the women captive, and of course free Dinah. Yaakov is not happy with this action because he says that really they're just part of the Canaanites as a whole, and the Canaanites can in return attack them and wipe out the family. It's only a few people. Shimon and Levi replied that they can't allow their daughter to be treated as a prostitute. What you have here is basically that they had good intentions, but their action was really rash and poorly thought out. This is not the way that you set up a deterrent or redeem captives. Nevertheless, it works out okay. Not only do the Canaanites not attack, but they're very intimidated by Yaakov and his family. So it's an aspect of they had a miracle. The idea of a miracle is significant. The Ha'emek Davar talks about the two names, and he raises the question as to why wasn't the name Yaakov discontinued entirely, like the name Avram was discontinued when God said that he should be called Avraham. And the answer he gives is that the name Yaakov refers to nature. Another word for the word for heel is akev, the idea that the heel walks on the ground, feet on the ground, being sensible. That's an aspect of Yaakov. He says, but Yisrael talks about somebody who is ru'ui for a nace, that he's appropriate to receive a miracle, which is a higher level. And he says that the Jewish people will need both names throughout the ages, because there are going to be times when you're going to be dealing with twisted hearts, and you'll have to deal with them in a natural way. On the other hand, when you're talking about Yisrael, what you're talking about is good people who nevertheless have human feelings and shortcomings, and they will make mistakes. And in the case where these mistakes are made, and they may be severe ones, it's appropriate to daven for a miracle, because they are the type of people who will understand it and learn from it and respect it.